What's up, guys? Another content day. So I'm taking you guys around the town with me. I'm running some errands today, and just wanted to shoot something a little bit different. And I'm going to take you to some of the house that I grew up in, and walk you through the mindset that I had at those times, and just open up a little bit. So I hope you enjoy this. This is just going to be a little bit more casual. Content is usually best when it's just on the spot. I mean, I've been doing this a few months now, and everything that we do that's kind of just on the spot and just kind of, not overproduced is often the best stuff. So hope you guys enjoy this. We're gonna grab some lunch, go get a haircut real quick, and then I'm gonna take you around the town. All right, so just got a fresh new haircut. We wanted to really get out of the office this week or this day. And for one, the weather's just been beautiful, but also, the idea behind this was really to appreciate where you're at. Sometimes you've got to look at where you've come from. And, earlier this week, I'll tell you, on like Monday, man, major case of the Mondays. Felt like I wanted to get everything done all in one day, and it was really overwhelming. It was just kind of an overwhelming day, if I'm being honest, and because I'm not yet where I want to be. And I know that there's so many of you guys that feel like you're not where you want to be, and I don't know that you'll ever really be where you want to be, right? You should always be striving for that little bit more. And so we're gonna kind of just take a drive around town, look at some of the houses that I grew up in, like I said, talk you through kind of the mindset at that time, and just really reminisce and appreciate where where I came from, where I grew up. We're walking around downtown Sarasota. This is where I grew up, and it's crazy to see how much it's grown as well. But it's a great place, beautiful weather, and we're gonna have some fun today. So thanks for tuning in. All right, so here we are, good old Colonial Gables. This is one of the first houses that I remember. I remember it well because we lived here for a long time, but when we first lived here, it was me, my brother, my mom, and we lived with my uncle at the time, right? And so just take a look at this house. So, small, but it's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of, it's when you grow up in a house like this, and I was really young when I lived here, so it wasn't necessarily like I thought these things cognitively, but when you grow up in, this environment, it doesn't really allow you to think big, right? It's not a conducive environment, I'll say. So, and then we moved from actually that house to this house. So we moved across the street. We could get more house for the same money or less money. I'm not really 100% sure why we made the move, but we moved all the stuff across the street into this house, and to be honest with you, I don't even know what happened. I don't really know what happened why we moved, but we moved out of that house into this house over here. Okay, so we had three different houses on the same street within, a couple of houses of each other. So the funny thing about this, and this neighborhood was so much fun growing up. It was, a blast. I enjoyed myself very much. So I'm not saying that it's like a bad place to grow up or rough place, but it's a lower to middle income style neighborhood. The kids that I was running with, certainly, not probably the best examples, and, getting into trouble and things like that. But I was young enough to where, this neighborhood I lived in until I was probably I don't know, 13 or 14. I could be off a little bit with the age, but probably till I was like 13 or 14, middle school days. And I never really, like I said, had the chance to think big and to think, man, my life is worth something, right? I'm going to do big things with my life. And, those thoughts never crossed my mind when we lived here. And it was more just, hey, this is my normal. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's not like it was a bad place to grow up. It's actually a great neighborhood to grow up. Had great friends. Some of them I still talk to. But it just, again, it wasn't conducive to thinking big. I didn't grow up, with my parents spurring me on, telling me that I could do anything I could put my mind to. Although, actually, growing up, my mom did always tell me that anything I touched turned to gold. I remember going to this house all the time. We would ride BMX bikes and all that fun stuff in the backyard. But this is where I grew up, and I'll say that things were pretty good when we lived here. Things were probably at the best when we lived in this neighborhood. But then I'm going to take you to a couple other houses where life started to get a little bit more difficult. Obviously, I'm not 14 years old. I'm growing up a little bit. I'm cognizant of some things, and it was tough. If you guys were at SWAT, you heard some of my story, and I'll tell you more here in a little bit when we get over to the other houses. All right, so I don't know. I think this is probably house number 4 that we lived in. I was telling Eric, the video guy here, that my timeline with things are horrible. My memory's so bad, and I don't know whether that's I blocked some things out or what. But this house we lived in, the one thing that I definitely remember about this house is that my bedroom didn't have air conditioning, and I had a fan at the door that would blow, colder air into the room, but my room didn't have air conditioning, and I, made that sacrifice. I think we lived in this house because it was like in foreclosure or something, and the owner gave us a good deal on renting it because he wasn't paying the bank for it anyways, probably. So lived here for like a year or so until we were, I guess, kicked out or asked to leave, or I don't, again, I was too young to really know what was going on, but it was a small house, very small house. I remember walking out one morning to my truck window, my back window busted out, and somebody broke in and stole my radio and I don't know, whatever crap out of my truck. So it was broken into. But this is another good neighborhood. It's not a bad, neighborhood. It's middle class. But we, like I said, lived here for about a year, and this is probably when things, started to go south a little bit. Hopped around to a few different houses, and so we're going to check out when we were uprooted from this house. We as a family made a bigger sacrifice and really downsized. So I'm going to take you to the next house, and then we've got one more house after that, and that is where I'm at today, and I'm so proud of. Oh man, so what's funny about the last house we showed you, I had to call my mom actually and make sure I was at the right one, because the couple of the houses, they look so much alike, and she was like, no, you're really shooting a video of our old houses. And I love my mom. She's just so sweet, and it's like, yeah, I'm shooting a video of our old houses because this is where we came from, and I'm going to shoot another video when I buy her a house one day. So just kind of cool. But this is one of the last houses that I lived in with my mom and my brother. And one of the biggest things I remember about this house is I remember going to look at it. We'd always lived in our own house. If you can't tell, this is a duplex, or at least it was when we lived here. The top was us, and the bottom somebody else lived there. And one of the biggest things I remember about this house is we walked in and we walked around the back. There's stairs up the back, and we walked up those stairs and looked in the house, and it was only 2 bedrooms, and there was me, my mom, and my brother. And she's like, we can't live here because it's too small. You know, we're not gonna, she was very proud, you know, we're not gonna live here. We can't live here. And I said, this is where we're living for sure. I remember saying specifically like that, we're gonna live here because this is what we can afford, and I'll sleep on the couch. And so for, you know, most of the time we lived here, I slept on the couch. And one of the funny memories is I remember the neighbor down the street, the neighbor on the bottom one night went to park in the driveway and floored the gas pedal and drove right into the living room. So obviously they've repaired it, so that's good. But sorry, dude. But yep, this was one of the last houses, and this is a duplex for those of you that don't know the name. And man, I'm happy to not be living in a duplex, I can tell you that much. But I love you, Mom, if you watch this, and you know, I'm who I am today because of you. So, all right, so this is the last house really that I lived in with my mom and my brother, and we didn't honestly live there for very long. It was probably one of the nicest houses we live in, but this is if you guys were at SWAT or if you heard the story, one of the houses that I remember, you know, turning this corner right here, and you can kind of see the way the door is, and I can see the pink eviction notice on the door. You know, if my mom watches this, she's gonna hate me for telling the story, but it is, you know, it's just a part of who I am, and it's helped me really, you know, help people that aren't thinking necessarily as big as I know that they can. You know, and I'm not perfect, and I don't claim to be, but I mean, it starts with little beginnings, right? Little things turn to big things. So this was an awesome house. Love this place. I do remember I got a cart coming up behind me. So sorry, buddy. He's pissed. It's all right. He's a Patriots fan. That's why. So I remember actually this neighbor over here. I ran an extension cord. We didn't have power for a little while. One time it was, you know, whatever, we didn't pay the electric bill or whatever it was, and well, no, that's what it was. But I ran an extension cord to my neighbor's house, and I plugged in a fan and a phone charger because, you know, you got to have your phone. So but I don't want, I mean, listen, it was humble beginnings is all it was. It wasn't necessarily, you know, I wasn't fed with a silver spoon, as they say, right? But also, like, you know, don't feel bad for me. It was a great upbringing, and I'm proud of where I've come from. This was just something that we wanted to throw together today, get out of the office, just kind of reset. Eric and I have had a great day just discussing the future and what this looks like. And, you know, every once in a while you got to do that, man. You've got to get out of the office. You've got to remind yourself, you know, you got to remind yourself where you came from, and also think about where you're going. So this is actually my wife and I's first house, and funny thing is my wife bought the house before I was around, and so I moved in, and I always joke that when I bought the engagement ring, that was like my down payment on the house. So this is where we started, so to speak, when I, you know, owned my first house. You know, technically, like I said, my wife bought it before I was around, but this is kind of where we started, and I'm looking forward to taking you by the house that we just bought a year ago. You know, very proud of it, and you see my family, see the house, and now you see where it all came from. All right, so here we are, my new house, right? Bought this house about a year ago with my wife, and man, big difference from where I grew up, but I'm super grateful for everything. I loved being able to do this because it really, you know, it really brought me back. It did. I mean, I'm telling you, Monday, earlier this week, I was not happy. I was upset. I was frustrated with, I'm like, I'm not where I want to be. And I know we've all been there. And so this whole thing has just been a great reminder of, man, how far I've come in the short time that I've been in the insurance industry. And so if you're in this industry and I'm sure you're in this industry, that's why you're watching this video, or you're thinking about getting into it, man, just keep working, keep putting your head down and going to work. When you pick your head up, you're not even know where you're at anymore. It's going to look completely different. And that's what this has been. And listen, I'm not where I want to be, and there are others far ahead of me still. But I wanted to be able to look back put my hand out and say, hey, come on, let's go, let's do this. It's the insurance industry. Anything is possible. You're not capped. You have no ceiling. So think big and let's make it happen.